Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakat Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS world. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Ainab. The title of the video is, global news highlights. Right, pretty much this is, a blowing of the trumpet, going into the news of world events happening worldwide that's pointing towards the end, right? Because the prophecy point towards the end, and prophecy is planned out here in the world. So I go into these artificial intelligence apps like DeepSeek and Chat GPT, and I ask it, top news worldwide, and pretty much I just read it off and filter it with the scriptures. So the scriptures tell us, to measure the times diligently in itself, so we can know exactly, what time period and what's going on around us in the time period that we're living in, right? And we're living in the end times, right? This is Second Ezra, chapter 9, verse 1. It says, answer me then, it said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told you before, then shalt thou understand that it's the very same time wherein the highest begins to visit the world which he made. So we can understand that the Most High Yahweh is visiting this place, because we see many things mentioned in the prophecies happening now, and at a greater number, upwards of the people, earthquakes, famines, pestilence, right, wars, and rumors of wars. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and upwards of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things in the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. It says, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, the end is manifest. All right. So the end has manifested itself, and a part of the end, comes what? Jacob's trouble. And that's where we're at right now, in a big way. So first, I'll probably start off on this Chat GPT, and I asked it top news in the U.S. and pretty much it didn't have much to say. It gave me 4 points, and I believe the main point would be point number 2 that says federal crackdown in Washington, D.C. Because ultimately this points towards Jacob's trouble. And it points to a lot, because eventually what? The famine of the word, the word will come. Let me grab that. This is Amos 8 and 11. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but hearing the words of the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah. And once, these things increase and the persecution, gets stronger and harder, the men of the Lord won't be out there on the streets, right, teaching. And they're already cracking down on the internet, right, YouTube and things like that, requiring IDs, and certain things to actually get into the internet. So we can already see where this is headed and where this is going. All right, so me go over here to this Jeremiah 30. Because this is what this crackdown in Washington, D.C., which is the beginning of sorrows, is pointing to, because it's not only going to be in Washington, D.C., it's going to spread these other major cities. This is Jeremiah 30, verse 6. I'm sorry, 5. Jeremiah 30 and 5, it says, for thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man will travail with a child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into elders. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. All right, so you want to seek the Lord while he may be found, so you're able to be saved of what's to come, So, like I said, point two, it says, sure, here's a deep look at point two, federal crackdown in Washington, D.C. What's happening? President Trump's administration has asserted direct federal control over parts of Washington, D.C.'s law enforcement system, something highly unusual in U.S. governance. It is unusual, right? And that's pursuant to, what is it? Isaiah 19, the cruel Lord, right? That's not regarding, basically the laws of the land. He's bypassing mayors and governors to do what he wants. So it says, point one, the legal context, it says unique status of DC. Washington, DC is not a state, it's a federal district. That means Congress and the president have special authority over its government. Normally, DC Metropolitan Police Department, right? And another thing, Trump militarized the police, right? And then he put the police out on the streets. So it's a plan, it's a plan that they had. It says, normally DC's Metropolitan Police Department is under the authority of the city's mayor, with the DC National Guard also locally managed, but federally overseen. Trump has overridden these norms by taking direct control of the operations, deploying National Guard units without a mayoral request, expanding the jurisdiction of federal law enforcement agencies, FBI, and so on within city policing. See, so this is a grand plan, and it goes to Jacob's trouble a day like never before, right? Time like never before. Says the justification given, Trump has publicly claimed that crime in DC is the worst it has ever been and that the city is out of control. He says the move is necessary to restore law and order, citing gang violence, carjackings, and homelessness as major concerns. Right, and we've seen before where they were allowing individuals to go in and rob stores, take everything and just walk out and leave, and they wasn't doing anything about it. But it was all planned. It was all planned this way to bring in, what they call order out of chaos. But they basically, this is more chaos because this is against the whole United States. That's why we say it's not only Jacob's trouble; it's going to be the whole world's trouble, basically, because of the things that America is doing. Says the reality check, DOJ crime data does not support the claim that DC crime is at an all-time high. Some categories are actually down from previous years. It says local officials argue that this is more about political control than crime reduction, and that's true. They're trying to get into a digital control state, right? So they need this chaos to bring in that order. Specific actions taken. We have homeless camp clearance, curfews, martial law, right? We have federal task forces, troops on the streets, and then reduce local authority. No more mayors, governors, and things like that. Says of the public and political reaction. Local leaders have strongly condemned the move. Civil liberty groups warns about constitutional concerns, while some Republicans have praised the move. Said why this matters, the situation raises bigger constitutional and political questions. How much federal control should there be over local policing? It says, does this set a precedent for future presidents, right? Which it won't be in future presidents. Trump will be the last president to run the United States of America, right? Because America is going into World War III. And that's why you have this summit that I'm also getting to about to take place. So, so we're going to what's unusual, right? It says, what's unusual about the current move? It says Trump has gone beyond normal powers by taking operational control of the Metropolitan Police Department, which he's going to do in all cities, take control of all the police departments. So he's setting local policing policy. It says merging local and federal forces. Right. This is civil. This is martial law. So basically, it says that he's going against the laws, right? And what he's doing. And like I pointed out, and the scriptures point to, is that this is the beginning of sorrows. It points towards Jacob's trouble, and also a cruel Lord ruling here in these last days, pursuant to Isaiah 19. No president has done what Trump is doing now, and the things that Trump is doing now is going to lead to the destruction of America, right? And the city is being troubled. We can grab that real quick. So I'll grab it. 2 Ezra 15 and 14, it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draw nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, right? And that's the overthrowing of the government, talking against the government, and the moves and things that Trump is doing now will lead to just that. The people are already upset, with what he's doing. It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their king nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in the power. Why? They're not going to care about the police officers that's policing. They're not going to care about the National Guard. They're not going to care about the militarized police. And ultimately, they're not going to care about the government, because the government is the people that's, doing this. It says, for a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because 2 Ezra 15 and 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So ultimately, putting forth the police and whatnot is going to cause the people to take to the streets. It's going to be uproars, marchings and things like that. And a clash, and then ultimately civil war and martial law, and all of that is taking place right now. And that's why you have, again, Isaiah 19. Isaiah 19:1, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, rideth upon his swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, right? Is representing America. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of them. Because ultimately, Yahushua is coming to destroy America and all its idols. The whole of America will be destroyed. It says, and I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptian. So this is the American against the American. I seen an article the other day where it says the ICE agents told the American citizens protesting that they have no rights. Right? They want to do away with the Constitution. It says, and I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptian, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the council thereof. Yeah, the council is totally gone from the America, right? We can see the leaders and the things that they're saying now. It says, and they shall seek to idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. And a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, the Lord of hosts. Right? So, it's no coincidence that you had things like the No Kings protest, right, and different events pointing to the fact that Trump is ruling like the emperor or king. And even the nations around the world are saying, there's no need for an emperor, because Trump is trying to push his power on the nations, right? And as the nations are trying to basically get around America, because America is dying. So that's that, on that part there. So we'll head to other news around the world and happening. So top news worldwide. Trump Putin Alaska summit, high stakes for Ukraine and global markets. Says ceasefire hopes which there's no ceasefire. It says U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are meeting in Alaska to discuss a potential Ukrainian ceasefire. Trump claims Putin is convinced he's going to make a deal, but Kremlin officials downplayed expectations, stating no documents will be signed. The market impact, it says the summit has global markets on edge, with investors eyeing potential shifts in energy prices and defense stocks. A ceasefire could benefit Ukrainian bonds and the euro, but skepticism remains about long-term sustainability. Geopolitical posture. Russia aims to use the summit to position itself as a global power equal to the U.S., drawing comparison to 1945 Yalta Conference. Scriptures tell us clearly, when they shall say peace and safety, there's when destruction comes upon them. Right, so we're not expecting a ceasefire here in these last days as tensions are flaring up, right? Because all of these things point to World War III, which is prophesied in the scriptures. So point two, escalating the Middle East crisis. It says Gaza, humanitarian catastrophe. Israeli strikes killed 16 Palestinians, including 8 seekers, amid worsening famine conditions. The death toll from malnutrition has risen to 239, including 106 children. West Bank settlement expansion. Israel's far-right finance minister approved plans for 3,400 new housing units in the E1 area. Effectively, it says effectively bisecting land earmarks for a future Palestinian state. So this is going into like 15-minute cities and things like that, where they can control people, ultimately chip people and track them. It says the EU condemned the move as illegal under international law. So, Israel wants to put the Palestinians in a corridor where they can be tracked, and chipped up like a 15-minute city. It says Palestinian resettlement talks. Israel is negotiating with 5 countries to resettle Gazans, offering financial incentives. Hamas rejected disarmament calls, vowing to continue resistance. So that's what's happening in the Middle East. There's still a problem there. We don't see any peace happening in that area also, right? So all this points towards the war, like I said earlier. We still have global. So point 3 says global economic and energy shifts. It says trade wars and tariffs. Trump threat of 100% tariff on Russian oil buyers looms, while the U.S. and EU finalize a trade deal to avert a broader conflict, though critics warn of inflation risks. Right, and this, tariff thing on Russian oil buyers is, an attack to BRICS nations, right, which is trying to make their way around the dollar and is a threat to America as a global power. So this is another war. It says, we have inflation and food prices. Global food prices hit a 2-year high in July. Yep, so then we have point 4, nuclear diplomacy and conflicts. So that's in the news also, right? Everyone's talking about nuclear war. It says Iran's nuclear standoff. Tehran demands a new inspection framework with the IAEA, citing U.S. Israeli attacks on its facilities. So yeah, that's pretty much what it says. They're basically saying they want a new framework with how the inspections, regarding the nuclear program works, because they have lost trust in America, right? Because America was the one, pretty much overseeing that. in Israel, and they used that to attack, Iran in recent news, basically. So we have Hezbollah warning the group accused Lebanon's government of handing the country to Israel by pushing for its disarmament, threatening civil war and pressure. So just more upwards of the people around the world. It says notable global incidents. We still have Turkey wildfires. 10 firefighters died battling the blazes amid extreme heat. So we still have that going on. And the Lord, of course, is visiting this place. That's how we know also that this is the end. Isaiah 29:6 says, "Thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua hosts with thunder and with earthquake and with great noise, with storm and tempest and with the flame of devouring fire." We have wildfires happening in Canada, and they say that's going to soon, cause like thick smoke to be, over here in America. It says we have another plane crash, a Russian plane crash. So planes are just falling out of the sky. All right, so pretty much that's the news. Just trouble all over the land, all of America, all over the world. All right, this is Ephesians 5:15. Says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil." All right, so updated the news. Lord willing, you edified. Shalom to those elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.